How you doing again? So now we're going to be talking about the supraspinatus muscle, which is primarily involved in the shoulder impingement syndrome or subacromial impingement syndrome, otherwise known as swimmer's shoulder. So again, when I go right into my anatomy video here, let me take a couple layers out here. The primary muscle that is involved is this muscle here called your supraspinatus muscle. It's one of the rotator cuff muscles itself. Now what ends up happening is, as you can see, it travels underneath through the small canal between what we call the acromial joint. And as you abduct or raise your hand up or force your shoulder in internal rotation position, it's going to actually literally quite impinge on that muscle itself, causing that irritation. Some other muscles that are involved here too is the subscapularis muscle underneath the shoulder blade itself, another rotator cuff muscle basically, and some other muscles that's also involved because of this syndrome. We're talking about certain muscles here like your biceps tendon, for example, or even your anterior deltoid. But let's get back into the supraspinatus tendon itself and what's involved. And the supraspinatus tendon itself is involved in a major movement called your abduction movement as it raises the shoulder. Now as it does that, you can't really see it because it's covered by that anterior deltoid. As you're raising it up, it does possibly impinge on that muscle itself. How you doing? So as I'm talking about the shoulder or subacromial impingement syndrome, I want to talk about a very basic exercise that a lot of folks like to do, which is a push-up. So there's a lot of things that I see when I see people do push-ups incorrectly, and I actually want to go over the proper ways of doing a lot of things. So we're going to actually show the wrong way using Coach Dylan for solid action lines. So the proper way of how we do a push-up is, first and foremost, you want to actually create a neutral spine and a stable core. And what are your core muscles again? They're not your abs necessarily, not your back muscles. They're actually all the muscles within your spine, from the midsection all the way up to your neck and your subcervical spine. And it's basically all the muscles, both intrinsic and superficial, working together to make sure that your whole mid-level is secure so that you have proper expression of your upper and lower extremities. So that being said, when we do a normal push-up position, you should be actually going ahead and working on your core, from either thinking about your abs, closing as two doors, like I talk to a lot of our patients, tightening up your glutes, tightening up your lower back to make a stable plank position. The second, your elbows should never be flared out, like I had pointed out. Your elbows should actually be in a nice 45-degree angle. From a regular push-up position, even if you want to go to a wider position, your elbows should be out in a nice comfortable position versus this. This is what creates that shoulder impingement syndrome, as we're lifting it up, creating that narrow space of the AC joint and trapping that supraspinatus muscle. So now with Coach Dylan, as you can see, his elbows are actually pointed flare out. Let's start off with this first. Go ahead and tighten up your core, make everything nice and stable. So you're actually doing a full plank position. Let's bring your shoulders inward a little closer so you're not flaring out. And again, we're going from a normal push-up or press-up position, going upwards, okay? And down. There you go, and up. Chest goes all the way down to the floor and not halfsies, okay? Now you can do the same thing. Go ahead and bring it up by also widening up those push-up position and down. Notice how his neck is also working as well. Again, these are all part of your core spine, keeping your neck stable, and go ahead and do your push-ups. Down all the way. Awesome. And that is how you do a right push-up.